Millionaire becomes traitor as street boy defies odds, saying, "Let me try," and shocks all. Jake darted through the swirling crowd, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. The city loomed around him, a tangled web of voices and colors. Wealthy elites glimmered in their tailored suits, laughter spilling from their lips, completely unaware of the storm brewing just outside the luxury venue hosting the gala. Jake's mud-streaked face, full of unfulfilled dreams, contrasted sharply against the polished marble and sparkling chandeliers visible through the windows. He whispered to himself, "Let me try." He didn't know how, but the moment felt electric. Something was shifting in the air, a feeling like thunder before a storm. In that moment, he decided to step into their world, where everything seemed so bright and surreal, yet shrouded in mystery. Jake had spent his childhood in the shadows of those like Victor Lane. A charismatic millionaire, Victor represented everything Jake. As he crept closer to the towering building, his sharp wit kicked in, allowing him to dodge security and slip inside, heart racing. Inside, the room felt suffocating. Laughter mingled with the tension in the air. The guests, adorned in sparkling gowns, whispered excitedly, oblivious to the storm about to shake their world. Then, just as Victor stepped onto the stage, a newsflash burst onto the screens. Shocking secrets spilled forth from the shadows of the elite. Gasps filled the room. Whispers wound their way through the crowd. Eyes turned towards Victor, who had just been labeled a traitor. Jake's chest tightened. He could feel the collective gasp of the crowd rattle in his bones. Victor's smile faltered for a moment, revealing cracks in his polished facade. The boy felt a surge of something unexpected. Was it courage? Or was it the thrill of impending chaos? "Did you hear that? His investments are based on lies," a guest muttered, disbelief dripping from their voice. The tension boiled in the room. Anxiety coursed through Jake as he edged closer to the growing commotion, weaving through the stunned crowd like a shadow. He caught a glimpse of Victor's face, mask slipping, the flicker of vulnerability glaring against his carefully crafted image. Jake felt a pang in his chest, not just resentment, but also a flicker of empathy. Just then, he overheard a hushed conversation behind him, snippets of words that turned his world upside down. Betrayal. He can't be trusted. Jake's heart raced. Was this the chance he needed? The moment that could change everything for him and for Victor. An opportunity at the right question or the right accusation could shake the very foundations of this glittering world. He could expose the cracks, but at what cost? He felt the weight of destiny pressing on his shoulders, the night heavy with uncertainty. Would he dare to reveal the truth? Jake stood at the edge of chaos, ready to leap. Hey, before you continue with this incredible story, I have an important warning for you. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And while you're at it, leave a like to help me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes a difference. Let's interact. Jake stood at the edge of chaos, heart racing as the weight of the world pressed on him. He could feel the whispers slicing through the air like a knife. The crowd's murmurs mixed with his thoughts. Was he really going to do this? A surge of reckless courage pushed him closer to Victor, who now looked more frail than ever. Just as Jake readied himself to shout, to challenge Victor, a deafening crash erupted from the entrance. The heavy doors were thrust open, splintering wood flying everywhere. Silence fell. Everything froze. All eyes turned, wide with disbelief. A man stormed in, wild-haired and frantic. He wore a tattered jacket, breathless and wild-eyed, as if he carried a universe of grime on his shoulders. "Victor!" he screamed, the name laced with desperation. "You can't hide from the truth any longer!" Jake's heart dropped. Who was this man? The tension shifted like a tide, pulling the crowd toward the newcomer. He shoved past guests, pulling out a folded piece of paper that looked worn and crumpled from years of torment. "Look!" The man held it aloft, voice quaking. "All the evidence is right here. You're not who they think you are." The thrumming of Jake's heart turned into a thundering drum. He squinted, trying to understand. Was this part of Victor's grand show? Or something darker? Gasps erupted as the man continued. "You betrayed your own! You and that deal with Langston Shipping. It was all a setup." Victor's face turned pale, a shade of ash. The crowd recoiled. Eyes widened and voices rose, disbelief coursing through them. "What are you talking about?" Victor sputtered, his charm crumbling in the wave of alarm. "No more hiding, Victor," the man shouted, tears glistening in his eyes. "You ruined my life. You destroyed my family. Do you think you'll just walk away from this?" Jake stood frozen, legs trembling. The noise surged again. People were shouting. Laughter was gone, replaced by an urgent chaos. Murmurs of conspiracy wrapped around the room. Some guests dared to edge closer, eyes filled with eager curiosity. Suddenly, young hands gripped Jake's arm. A girl beside him, eyes shimmering with raw fear, whispered, "What does he mean? Did Victor really betray his own?" Jake's throat tightened, a lump forming. He glanced back to Victor, whose facade was melting away, replaced by a shadow of desperation. Was this the man he had idolized, or just another monster hiding behind money? The crowd was a whirlwind, exchanging glances of shock and anger, ready to tear Victor apart. But then, the man shouted something earth-shattering. "This is about more than you think. He's not just a traitor. He's been working with the enemy all along." Jake felt the ground shift beneath him. Everything he knew was spiraling into doubt. The truth? It was a jagged pill to swallow, and it tasted bitter. "Who is the enemy?" someone yelled, but the question lingered, unanswered, heavy in the air. Jake felt a whirlwind of emotions crashing over him. Doubt, fury, betrayal. His mind raced. Was Victor a traitor, or was he just a man on the brink of exposure? Victor's eyes darted around, desperation clawing at his composure. In this moment of chaos, Jake stood at a crossroads, the threads of fate weaving tighter around him. Would he risk the wrath of the elite to unearth this deception? Could he handle the truth about the man he unknowingly admired? With uncertainty wrapping around him, Jake took a breath, ready to leap into an uncertain abyss. What would he discover if he followed this thread? What if everything he believed was a twisted facade? The night held its breath, waiting for the next move. Jake felt the shockwaves ripple through the crowd. The man's accusation hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. All eyes were on Victor, waiting for a response. Jake's heart pounded, caught between fear and exhilaration. This was a moment of truth, or perhaps a moment of reckoning. Victor's face paled, his confident veneer slipping as panic clawed its way to the surface. "You're mad! This is outrageous!" he blurted, but his voice trembled. The crowd reacted. Gasps mingled with whispers. Disbelief turned to outrage. Jake edged closer, feeling the electric charge in the room. Each heartbeat felt like thunder, echoing the chaos swirling around him. He was witnessing the downfall of a giant. Yet his own truth felt close enough to touch. Again, the man shouted, "You've always been a coward, Victor, hiding behind your wealth, thinking no one would ever find out the truth." Desperation flowed through his words. Then a light flickered in the man's eyes, a flicker of rage mixed with sorrow. He raised the piece of paper. This isn't just about me. It's about hundreds of lives." Jake's breath caught in his throat. What lives? What had Victor done? The question clawed at his mind, a desperate itch he couldn't scratch. He gazed at Victor, waiting for him to crack further, waiting for something that would finally expose the monster hiding behind the suit. Then, just as tension peaked, the unexpected happened. Without a word, Victor lunged at the man. It took everyone by surprise. A gasp burst from the crowd. Victor's grip locked around the man's wrist, twisting it violently. The crumpled paper fluttered from the man's grasp, landing like a fallen leaf between them. The room erupted, chaos consuming every corner. Security flooded in, rushing toward the scuffle. Voices shouted, faces twisted in horror and confusion. Amidst the turmoil, Jake watched in disbelief as Victor's mask torn away, revealing not just fear, but a feral desperation he had never imagined. In the chaos, someone screamed, "Call the police!" Panic gripped the attendees, eyes darting from one scene to another. In the midst of it, Jake felt someone tug at his sleeve. A girl, eyes wide with terror, pulled him back. "We need to leave," she urged, but Jake couldn't move. He was frozen, eyes glued to the unfolding drama. Just then, the crowd parted and a familiar face appeared. Jake's heart dropped. It was his mother. Her face, pale, fear written all over her features. "Jake, what are you doing here?" she yelled, her voice lost in the cacophony. She rushed toward him, panic rising in her chest. Jake's mind spun. Why was she here? Had she followed him? All at once, Victor stopped, eyes flaring as he caught sight of her. "No, it can't be," he muttered, his grip on the man loosening. Suddenly, the air shifted. The man stumbled back, shock pinching his features. Then the most unbelievable thing happened. Victor dropped his shoulders, a low laugh bubbling up from deep within, a laugh filled with malice and despair. You don't know, he cackled, as the world seemed to bend around him in chaos. Do you? None of this is what it seems. Not her, not me. Jake's heart dropped like a stone. What did he mean? Everyone fell silent, turning to Victor, and Jake felt the world shift dramatically. The truth was like a blade, sharp and cutting. Had he been wrong about everything? What do you mean? The man asked, disoriented, struggling to grasp the implications. Victor grinned, something sinister lurking behind it. You'll see soon enough. And with that, the lights began to flicker, and the room shifted. Something monumental was about to be revealed. What was Victor hiding? What truth were they all blind to? The air buzzed with a new tension as shadows moved in the corners. Everything felt charged, alive with the unknown. Jake could only stare, heart pounding, as the real game began to unfold. The stage was set, but what role would he play? That was the question that hung in the air, lingering like a ghost ready to haunt them all. The lights flickered again, casting shadows that danced across the room. Jake felt the shift. It was like the very air had thickened with tension. Victor's grin twisted, revealing a deeper darkness, and Jake's heart raced faster. None of this is what it seems, Victor repeated, but the urgency in his voice betrayed him. Jake clenched his fists. He wanted to shout, to demand answers. But just then, a loud crack echoed through the venue, halting all thoughts. The wall behind Victor split open like a gaping wound, revealing a hidden chamber. Gasps erupted, the crowd recoiling in shock as bricks tumbled down, dust swirling in the air. What was happening? This wasn't part of any show. This was real. Jake's legs shook, but curiosity pulled him closer to the unfolding horror. Shadows flickered in the quickening light, and there, at the edge of the revealed space, figures emerged. A woman stepped forward, tall and fierce. Her eyes burned with a fierce intensity. She lifted her chin and spoke with authority. Victor Lane, your time is up. The silence was deafening. Victor's face went slack with confusion, then morphed into horror. You shouldn't be here, Laura, he shouted, voice rising in panic. Laura? Jake's mind raced. Who was she? What did she mean? The whispers around him grew louder, panic creeping through the crowd like smoke. This is about more than just our fallout, Laura continued, her voice steady as stone. It's about all the sacrifices you made for your greed. She stepped into the light, revealing not just anger, but pain etched across her features. Then, she turned her back to Victor and faced the crowd. For everyone in this room who thought Victor was a hero, you've been blind. He sold us out for power. Jake's stomach dropped. It felt like all the air had been sucked from the room. Betrayal? It prowled through his thoughts like a hungry beast. The murmurs rose again, suffocating as people struggled to comprehend. Sold out? Someone whispered. To who? Laura nodded, eyes flashing. To Langston Shipping, to the very people trying to destroy our livelihoods. She held up a set of documents, the light catching the edges. This isn't just about his wealth. This is about lives, families, everything we built. The gravity of her words crashed into Jake. Was this true? Had Victor manipulated everything? There was no going back now. Then, as if the universe was responding, a loud bang erupted, and a second figure appeared, storming into view. A man in a cheap suit, wild-eyed and trembling. "You'll think you can just walk away from this, Victor? You've ruined us all!" he screamed, voice breaking. Jake blinked, shock coursing through him. The man was someone from his neighborhood. He recognized him from countless late nights at the local diner. How were these worlds colliding? Victor's face twisted with rage and desperation. "Shut up! You were supposed to stay out of this!" he spat, eyes darting around, searching. "Why? It's time everyone knows the truth," the man yelled. "You're not a millionaire. You're a monster playing in the dirt." He raised a finger. "You're the traitor. You betrayed your own." The crowd's reactions spiraled into chaos. Gasps turned to angry shouts. Jake's heart raced, a lump forming in his throat. What was happening to the man he had once admired? Suddenly, the energy in the room shifted again. A hush fell over the crowd as Laura produced a flash drive from her pocket, brandishing it like a weapon. "This holds everything," she declared, holding it aloft. "The proof of his betrayal." Victor's expression morphed into sheer panic. Jake had never seen a man unravel so completely. "No, you wouldn't dare," he hissed, eyes darting between Laura and the crowd. "It's all lies." But the damage was done. The crowd surged, a wave of murmurs, crashing as they turned against Victor. Jake felt their anger, the weight of years of hypocrisy bubbling to the surface. With each heartbeat, Jake realized the pedestal he had placed Victor on was crumbling, revealing a far more complicated truth. With the weight of chaos hanging in the air, Laura stepped closer to the microphone. "This is only the beginning. Discover the truth. It's not just Victor who has blood on his hands." Jake's heart raced as he took a step back, eyes wide. What did she mean? Who else was involved? The storm was just starting, and Jake was standing on the edge, wondering if he had the courage to leap. As the crowd roared, shouting accusations and demands, Jake felt lost in a sea of chaos. Was the hero he'd imagined nothing more than a villain in disguise? In this new world of revelations, he could only wonder, who could he trust now? Jake stood frozen, his heart hammering in his chest. Chaos swirled around him. Accusations echoed, and tension crackled like static in the air. Victor's eyes darted, wild and panicked, as Laura thrust the flash drive into the spotlight. "You've all been deceived," she cried, voice ringing through the room. "This man whom you admire has built his empire on lies." The crowd reacted with disbelief, shaking their heads, but curiosity pulled them closer. Jake felt a mix of anger and confusion. This wasn't just about Victor anymore. It was about everything he thought he knew. "Don't listen to her!" Victor shouted, his voice breaking. "She's just trying to drag me down with her." But Laura stood firm, eyes blazing with determination. "You can't hide forever, Victor. The truth will always surface." Suddenly, a loud crash interrupted them. The doors swung open once again, a sudden gust of wind sweeping through the room. A figure stood framed in the doorway, a tall, imposing man clad in dark clothing. his face obscured by shadows. "Checkmate, Victor," the man said, his voice smooth but laced with menace. "It's time to end this charade." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Jake felt a chill crawl up his spine. Who was this man? The tension twisted tighter, as if someone had just strangled the very air in the room. Victor's bravado faltered. "You shouldn't be here, Daniel," he stammered, his expression shifting from anger to raw fear. "I thought we were done." "Done?" Daniel laughed, but it was void of humor. "You've underestimated me for the last time. It's all coming to light, Victor. The deals, the backstabbing, it's over." Jake's thoughts churned. What did Daniel mean? What deals? Victor's life seemed to unravel more with every heartbeat. The whispers around him grew louder, panic creeping into every glance exchanged. And then, as if ignited by some unseen spark, the lights suddenly flashed and went out. Darkness descended like an avalanche. Jake felt hands grasping nervously at his arms. "What's happening?" someone cried out, fear spilling into the air. A deafening explosion rocked the room, shattering the stillness and sending guests reeling. A light flickered back on, revealing chaos, broken glass, overturned tables, and horrified expressions. The wall from which Laura had emerged began to tremble, cracks spiderwebbing through it. The crowd erupted in screams, desperation flooding the atmosphere. Jake's heart raced, but something strange caught his eye. Amid the chaos, Victor stood frozen, transfixed by Daniel. His mouth moved, yet no sound came out. Then Jake saw realization blaze in Victor's eyes, a flicker of fear mingled with something darker, something almost sinister. In a swift motion, Victor turned, eyes darting toward the hidden chamber beyond the wall. "No, you can't! It's not safe!" he yelled, desperation creeping into his voice. Daniel smiled, a smile devoid of warmth. "And you can't run from your past, Victor. Not anymore." Jake felt the room shift, time stretching. His mind swirled with doubt. Was Victor the villain, or just another pawn? As whispers of betrayal surrounded him, Jake's heart dropped with a newfound dread. Just before the wall crumbled, revealing what lay behind, Jake caught a glimpse of something glimmering in the darkness. It was too small to identify, yet it pulsed with a strange energy that pulled him in. What is it? He thought, breathless, staring hard. The room held its breath, and then the wall collapsed, sending debris flying everywhere. In the swirling dust, a secret was about to emerge, one that would upend everything Jake thought he knew. As the dust settled, the glimmer transformed, revealing something unmistakable, something that changed everything. The crowd gasped in unison, but Jake could only whisper the question that froze his heart. What have we unleashed? The dust settled slowly, revealing the hidden chamber beyond the crumbled wall. Jake's heart raced, a storm of emotions swirling within him. The eerie silence that followed felt heavy, thick with anticipation. The glimmering object reflected the dim light, a small, ornate box, seemingly untouched by the chaos surrounding it. People whispered, brows furrowed in confusion. "What is that?" someone finally asked, voice shaking. Jake couldn't help but edge closer. Drawn in by an unexplainable pull, Victor stood paralyzed, eyes wide with terror. "No, you mustn't," he shouted, voice strained, but Laura stepped forward emboldened. "It's time we unveiled the truth," she declared, reaching for the box. The crowd shifted as they leaned in, collectively holding their breath. Then everything changed. Just as Laura opened the box, a blinding flash of light erupted, illuminating the entire venue. The brightness was overwhelming, and for a brief moment, Jake covered his eyes, heart pounding as confusion morphed into panic. When the light faded, Jake blinked, trying to adjust. The atmosphere felt different, charged, alive. But as he focused again, a chilling realization swept through him. The faces of everyone in the room shifted, altering in the blink of an eye. Victor transformed before his eyes. His glimmering aura vanished, replaced by something dark, something terrifying. Jake's throat went dry. Victor wasn't just a man in a suit. He radiated power, a sinister force cloaked in charisma. "No," someone gasped from the crowd. "What's happening?" Laura stumbled back, eyes wild with realization. "What have you done?" she screamed, horror spilling from her lips. It wasn't just chaos. It was a revelation. The man who had stormed in earlier, Daniel, took a step closer, a knowing glance exchanged with Victor. "You thought you could control it all, but you failed," Daniel taunted. "The box reveals the truth, and you can't hide from it anymore." Jake's heart raced as he pieced it all together. The box wasn't merely a container. It held secrets no one was prepared to face. Faces flushed with disbelief and fear flickered throughout the crowd. Laura backed away further, her bravery faltering. "Victor, who are you really?" Jake shouted, his voice a desperate plea mixed with anger. "What is this?" Victor smirked, his demeanor shifting as he pulled himself together. "Ah, Jake, you wanted to know the truth?" His eyes gleamed with something that sent chills down Jake's spine. "You've been pawns in a game far bigger than you imagined. This isn't about betrayal. It's about power." Suddenly, the ground shook, rattling everyone to their core. A crack split the floor, snaking towards the edges of the chaotic venue. Gasps echoed. The boxed secrets, what did they truly unleash? The shock waves rippled through the crowd, everyone reeling as Victor's ties to dark forces began to unravel. Jake felt the air constrict around him, tightening like a noose. What if the real traitor is... Before he could finish, figures emerged from the shadows, faces blurred yet familiar. Voices from every corner of his life echoed out, mingling fear with confusion. They were the people he thought he knew, all tied to Victor, each one a piece of the puzzle. Jake stumbled back, his breath hitching. "What are you?" But then the figures began to distort, merging into something sinister. Twisted reflections of betrayal and loyalty. The truth started to piece itself together, fragment by fragment, creating a tapestry of darkness. Just before the ground split wide open, Jake's mind raced with a single thought. Who could he trust now? Would he dare step closer to uncover the truth? Or would he risk everything to turn back? A shadow engulfed everything, and amid that darkness, Jake realized one earth-shattering truth. Each blur of a familiar face was a reminder that he might be the biggest pawn of all. The dust settled slowly, revealing the hidden chamber beyond the crumbled wall. Jake's heart raced, a storm of emotions swirling within him. The eerie someone finally asked, voice shaking. Jake couldn't help but edge closer, drawn in by an unexplainable pull. Victor stood paralyzed, eyes wide with terror. "No, you mustn't!" he shouted, voice strained. But Laura stepped forward, emboldened. "It's time we unveiled the truth," she declared, reaching for the box. The crowd shifted as they leaned in, collectively holding their breath. Just as Laura opened the box, a blinding flash of light erupted, illuminating the entire venue. The brightness was overwhelming, and for a brief moment, Jake covered his eyes, heart pounding, as confusion morphed into panic. When the light faded, Jake blinked, trying to adjust. The atmosphere felt different, charged, alive. But as he focused again, a chilling realization swept through him. The faces of everyone in the room shifted, altering in the blink of an eye. Victor transformed before his eyes. His glimmering aura vanished, replaced by something dark, something terrifying. Jake's throat went dry. Victor wasn't just a man in a suit. He radiated power, a sinister force cloaked in charisma. "No!" someone gasped from the crowd. "What's happening?" Laura stumbled back, eyes wild with realization. "What have you done?" she screamed, horror spilling from her lips. It wasn't just chaos, it was a revelation. The man who had stormed in earlier, Daniel, took a step closer, a knowing glance exchanged with Victor. "You thought you could control it all, but you failed," Daniel taunted. "The box reveals the truth, and you can't hide from it anymore." Jake felt the room shift, time stretching. His mind swirled with doubt. Was Victor the villain, or just another pawn? As whispers of betrayal surrounded him, Jake's heart dropped with a newfound dread. Just before the ground split wide open, Jake's mind raced with a single thought. Who could he trust now? Would he dare step closer to uncover the truth? Or would he risk everything to turn back? Then, with a loud rumble, the floor cracked open, swallowing light and laughter. Darkness crept up around them, swallowing hope. As the crowd screamed and scattered, Jake felt a pull, like gravity shifting, pulling him in, just as the ornate box exploded into a shower of light. In that moment, time froze. A bright figure emerged from the midst of the chaos, a woman cloaked in light. "Stop," she commanded, and her voice rolled through everyone like thunder, cutting through the panic. Every eye turned to her. Jake squinted, struggling to see. "Who are you?" he yelled. "I am the Protector," she replied, voice resonating, fierce yet calm. "And you've all awakened forces you can't understand." For a heartbeat, everything went still. Jake blinked rapidly, heart pounding. He could feel the air thicken like fog. "What do you mean?" She raised her hand, and the scattered light formed shapes around her. "He's not just Victor. He's part of something bigger, a web of deceit that spans generations." Victor sneered, but Jake noticed his facade cracking further. "What is she talking about?" he demanded, fear lacing his voice. The figure didn't flinch. "You are bound by a curse, Victor. A betrayal rooted in blood." The crowd gasped, and Jake felt his knees weaken. What kind of curse? What does she mean by blood? Victor's expression shifted. Fear mixed with anger. Lies! You don't know anything! But his voice was softer now, almost pleading. I know who you truly are, she said, voice steady. You bear the mark of your family's sin, and it's time you pay the price. Jake's breath came in shallow gasps, trying to digest this revelation. It felt like a tidal wave crashing over him. Was Victor a puppet? Or was he the puppeteer, caught in a cycle of his family's sins? At that moment, everyone realized the darkness was not just surrounding Victor. It crept into every heart in the room. Relationships shattered. Friendships turned to ash. The figure's light flickered, and she looked directly at Jake. You have a choice. Seek the truth or succumb to the darkness. As Victor's world crumbled around him, the choice weighed heavily in Jake's heart. What truth was he willing to uncover? What about the ties that bound him? With a pulse of uncertainty echoing in his chest, Jake stood on the precipice of a new reality. A reality darker than he could imagine. What do I do? He whispered, scarcely above a breath. Would he dare plunge into the depths of the unknown? Jake stood there, heart racing, the weight of the protector's words still hanging in the air. The crowd was frozen, eyes darting among the chaos. As Victor's dark presence loomed, the figure brushed her hair aside, staring straight into Jake's eyes as if searching for something within him. Choose wisely, she said, gaze piercing. This is not just about you, but everyone. Suddenly, without warning, the ornate box began to glow again, pulsing like a heartbeat. Everyone watched in stunned silence. Then, with a blinding flash, shadows erupted from the box, shooting like arrows into the crowd. Jake felt a sharp grip on his arm. He turned to find Laura, holding him tightly, eyes wide with fear. What is happening? She asked, voice trembling. Panic skittered across her features. But just as the shadows began to envelop the guests, something unexpected unfolded. The lights flickered and then went out completely, plunging everyone into darkness. A collective gasp filled the room. The air grew thick, heavy with confusion and dread. Stay together! Someone shouted, as flashes of light danced across the room, illuminating frantic expressions. Then, an unearthly shriek echoed, piercing the air with raw terror. It came from the corner where Victor stood, his usually calm demeanor replaced by sheer panic. No, not now! You can't do this! He yelled, desperation spilling from his lips. In the darkness, another bright flash illuminated the chaos, revealing something impossible. Victor's face was twisting, morphing into something grotesque. It was a revelation Jake never saw coming. Stop! No! Laura screamed as the shadows swirled around Victor, pulling him away, his body writhing in agony. What have you done? Jake's heart hammered. He felt a sinking dread pool in his stomach. The protective figure, now standing straight and firm, seemed to revel in the chaos. You all believed him to be your savior, she called out, her voice echoing ominously, but he was the sacrifice. With those words, the crowd erupted into chaos. Shouted questions drowned out the reality of what was transpiring. What do you mean? Is this true? The shifting shadows revealed glimpses of horror, faces contorted in fear, bodies falling like dominoes. But in that heart-stopping moment, Jake's eyes met Victor's. The vulnerability he had seen moments before was gone, replaced with something darker. "You fools!" Victor snarled, voice low and menacing. "You think you know the truth? I am more than you can handle!" Jake's heart dropped. This wasn't the man he had admired. He was a monster. In an instant, a violent force radiated outward from Victor, sending everyone sprawling. Jake felt it like a wave crashing over him, sending him tumbling to the ground. He gasped, lungs burning, as he struggled to crawl away from the dense energy swirling around. And just when he thought it could not get worse, the shadows twisted and formed into a figure, one he never expected to see. "Father?" Jake breathed, eyes wide, as a familiar face emerged from the dark. A face he thought was lost long ago. His own father, twisted in sorrow and anger. "Jake." His father's voice was both a plea and a command, full of authority. "You must listen. This is all part of the cycle." The room fell silent at the revelation, tension thick enough to cut. Jake blinked, reeling. His father? Here? How could this be possible? "Everything you've known is a lie," Victor hissed. But a hint of fear crept into his tone. The truth twisted in the air like smoke. Jake's head spun, trying to make sense of it all. Was this a betrayal? A salvation? Who are you really? Jake's voice trembled, a lump in his throat as he faced both men. The truth he thought he knew disintegrated into dust. "Choose wisely, son," his father whispered, eyes pleading but resolute. But how could he choose? The chilling weight of unanswered questions sank in. In this swirling storm of confusion, what was the real truth? And who could he trust when shadows clung to every face in the room? Jake stood there, heart racing, the weight of the protector's words still hanging in the air. The crowd was frozen, eyes darting among the chaos. As Victor's dark presence loomed, the figure brushed her hair aside, staring straight into Jake's eyes as if searching for something within him. "Choose wisely," she said, gaze piercing. "This is not just about you, but everyone." Suddenly, without warning, the ornate box began to glow again, pulsing like a heartbeat. But just then, the air shifted violently, like a storm breaking loose, and a rumble echoed, sending tremors through the ground. Jake stumbled, a primal fear rising within him. The shadows around Victor writhed, twisting and spiraling into a vortex of darkness that pulled at the edges of the room, creating an abyss where both light and hope seemed to vanish. "Don't let it take you," his father shouted, but his voice was drowned out by chaos. The shadows surged forward, consuming Victor like smoke. "Gather yourselves," he urged the crowd, but panic erupted. Then a sudden crack, and the ornate box shattered, sending shards of light bursting through the darkness like fireworks. In the confusion, Jake squinted through the chaos, trying to find Laura, but she was lost in the masses. Everyone was shouting, scrambling, confusion swirling in every direction. And that's when it happened. The familiar face from the shadows, one Jake had trusted all this time, twisted into a smile that felt more sinister than comforting. It was Daniel, standing tall and unshaken against the chaos. "You were never meant to be here, Jake," he said, voice smooth as silk, confidence radiating off him like heat from a fire. "You were just a pawn in this game, a distraction while I executed the real plan." Jake's heart sank. The betrayal hit him like a punch in the gut, disbelief constricting his throat. "Daniel, what are you saying?" he stammered. The voices around him faded into a haunting silence as the words sunk in. "I orchestrated it all from the shadows," Daniel continued, his eyes glinting with malice. "The gala, the chaos, even Victor's downfall, it was all for this moment, to draw out the truth." The crowd gasped collectively, revelations crashing down like waves. Victor, now engulfed by shadows, turned fearfully towards Daniel. You were supposed to be on my side." "Your side? You're nothing but a fading star, Victor," Daniel spat, stepping closer. "I'll take back everything that was stolen. Your secrets, this darkness, is just the beginning." Jake felt a cold wave wash over him. Everything was upside down. What did Daniel want? Was it revenge? His heart raced as he searched for answers, the truth teetering on the edge of a knife. Suddenly, the shadows recoiled, revealing a small figure hidden within the darkness. A child stepped out, trembling, holding a small object tightly. Jake's breath caught in his throat. The child looked just like him. "No," he whispered, hands trembling. "How is this possible?" Daniel's grin widened, sinister and triumphant. "You see, Jake? The truth was always closer than you thought. This child is proof of Victor's betrayal, and yours too, whether you like it or not." The crowd erupted in gasps, voices rising in shock. Jake's mind spun. What did he mean? "Your father knew, and now you must face it, or risk losing everything," Daniel taunted. His eyes glimmering with a dark truth. The tension in the room crackled, electrifying the air, as everyone turned to Jake, expectation holding their breaths. Jake stood frozen, heart pounding in his chest. Everything he believed was unraveling. The child grasped the object, a shining chess piece, and in that moment, Jake realized it represented more than a game. It was the key to everything. But as he reached for it, Daniel blocked him, a sinister smile etched on his lips. "You want the truth? Then embrace the game. Choose what you will sacrifice." With that, the shadows surged closer, engulfing everything in a swirling darkness. Jake's heart raced, desperate to grasp the reality before him. What would he do? The weight of impossible choices lay heavy on his shoulders as the screams faded into the darkness. How far would he go to uncover the truth? Who would he become in the process? As the shadows closed in around Jake, his heart raced. The child stood there, clutching that shining chess piece, the weight of everything crashing down. Secrets, betrayals, and bloodlines intertwined in ways he never imagined. "What do you mean?" he pleaded, looking between Daniel and Victor. "I mean," Daniel sneered, "the game has just begun, Jake. You get to choose." But Jake could feel the tremors in the ground beneath him. He felt lost, overwhelmed by emotions swirling like a storm. The darkness seemed to breathe, waiting for a decision. "Jake!" His father's voice cut through the chaos. "You must make a choice. You can end this cycle." With panic swirling around him, Jake took a deep breath. "No more games!" he shouted, voice hoarse. "I won't let you control me!" At that moment, a rush of clarity pulled him. He turned to the child, whose eyes mirrored his own. "We are stronger together," he said, feeling the truth of those words. He took a step towards the shadowy figure of Victor, heart pounding, a rush of emotions flooding his veins. "You're not a god," he yelled, the words resonating through the room. "You're just a man, hiding behind lies." Victor's face twisted in rage, but the darkness began to recede ever so slightly. The choking fear that had gripped the crowd began to loosen its hold. Jake's voice rang out clear and defiant. "This isn't your world anymore." Laura stepped beside him, determination etched into her features. "We'll stand together, no matter the cost." Victor's fury roared back, darkness swirling around him like a storm. "You think you can defy me?" But as the shadows shrank, the light from the shattered box illuminated the space with a brilliant glow. Jake grabbed the chess piece from the child's hand, holding it high as it sparkled, radiating hope. "This is a new game, Victor, one you can't control." A loud crack echoed as the ground shook again. The room quivered, dust swirling up like a whirlwind. Confusion ensued, but the crowd began to huddle close. Fear turned to resolve. "Together," someone shouted, and the crowd echoed it back, forming a wall of unity that cascaded against the darkness. They stepped forward, hand in hand. Eyes set on the figure of Victor. Then, with a deafening roar, the shadows shrieked and retreated as Victor's form began to flicker, his power dissolving into nothingness. His face twisted one last time, a scream tearing through the air before he vanished from sight, leaving only silence behind. As the waves of chaos settled, Jake felt his father's hand on his shoulder. "You did it," he said softly. "You broke the cycle." Cheers erupted from the crowd. Life blossomed in their expressions as fear began to fade. The dawn creeping in, light spilling through the cracks, warming the cold air. But just as Jake thought they could finally breathe, the ornate box shimmered again, bringing forth a final, undeniable truth. "Who will pay the price?" the protector intoned, her voice heavy yet filled with an echo of hope. Jake met Laura's gaze as the energy began to shift once more. "We're done living in shadows," he vowed. "We will face whatever comes next, united." And as the light danced around them, Jake raised the chess piece high, heart filled with a resolve he never knew he had. Whatever the future held, he would face it head on. But as questions hung in the air, uncertainty flickered. What would happen next? How deep did this web go? You must now subscribe to our channel. Don't miss out on the next exclusive stories that await. Press that like button now to pump up the algorithm. Flood the comments section with all your reactions. What do you think happened next? And share this with at least 5 friends who need to know this ending. Don't wait 1 second longer to show your support. Every action counts.